The very first thing that I want you to answer in the chat is this. Riddle me this. What is one thing all people want but cannot buy? Put your answer in the chat, and I'll reveal the answer at the end of today's class. So put that in the chat. Bronx is our big push for today. And so today we're going to have lots of discussion, like I said, and I cannot wait to hear what you guys think. Here are our learning targets. I can identify key topics within a text, and I can support my thinking with evidence and reasoning. Those are our learning targets for today. So today's agenda, we're going to start with an announcement in a minute. We're going to discuss Bronx Masquerade up to page 107, and then we'll look at next steps. That's our agenda for today. This is my announcement. Please, I'm begging you, turn on your cameras. I just don't want to look at your dots anymore. I want to see your faces. If it's something you can do, please do it. How's that for begging? Whew. All I want for Christmas are your cameras on. Cameras on. Oh, I should start singing. And then when your cameras go on, I'll just stop singing. You probably would appreciate that. Okay, thanks, Toddy. And your camera doesn't work. Okay, thanks, Lizzie. All right, let's discuss Bronx Masquerade. So when I was thinking about what are the how do we find topics in Bronx Masquerade, I was like, I'm going to do a check and find out what the author, Nikki Grimes, has to say about her own book. And I found this really cool website. It's her website. And then she said that this is her most asked question is, how did she create the characters? And she talked about how there's a part of her that is like these characters. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, just part of it. Of all the characters, I am most like Sterling, whose faith is central to his life, and Gloria, as I was a single mom in college, and Janelle, as I too struggled with poor self-image, though unlike Janelle, my problem was being too skinny. Like Amy, I was estranged from my parent. Like Deandra, I struggled to earn my parents' respect for my art. Like Raul, I enjoyed the support of at least one family member, namely my sister. Like Lupe, I thought having a baby would fill me up emotionally. Like Leslie, I was moved around a lot and knew how lonely that could be. In other words, I connect with every character in the book. I thought that was so cool. And then I won't read the rest of it, but I get down to the very bottom of this and find out that the one real character, the absolutely real character in this book is Mr. Ward, the English teacher. She said she based this character on him, he's a teacher and a poet, and now her friend. And I just think that's so cool that he's really real. And the rest of these are characters that she created from experiences in her own life. I just thought that was kind of cool. Moving on. Take a look at this screen, and I need everybody to seriously look at this screen. I'm going to give you 90 seconds. And then my question while you're thinking about this, while you're looking, my question for you is going to be, what topics do we find in these characters? Or who do you relate to and why? So I'm going to give you 90 seconds to think about it. Okay, so now that you've had some time to really look at these characters, this is where the discussion's going to start. Let's think about, well, let's start off with this. Who are some of these characters? Who can you relate to? Who stands out to you and you're like, oh man, I get it. So you can just put it in the chat or on mute, and you can say like, let me start. I want to just say I relate to Janelle Battle because she struggles with her weight, and people judge others. Lizzie, thank you for telling us that it's Amy. Do you want to expand on why you can relate to her? Anton, thank you. Anton, why can you relate to her? I see that you're unmuted. Do you want to just speak?
I didn't even know I was unmuted.
Oh, Toddy, thank you. Leslie Lucas, because I also live with my grandmother. My parents are divorced. Thanks, Lizzie. Yep.
My parents are divorced too.
Okay. And so there's some real struggles in there, right?
I can relate to Amy because my parents got divorced a long time ago. When I was like little.
Oh, okay. And so that causes some struggles in your life, right, Sam? Yeah. So did mine. Thanks, Elena. Who else do you relate to? Well, so now I'm going to ask you another question. So a lot of you are relating to Amy because her parents are divorced. So what are some topics that we find in here? And when I talk about topics, for example, Janelle Battle, it says struggles with her weight, wants people to know who she really is, right? So if we remember in her story, she's really talks about how people judge her by her weight, or she perceives that. She looks at other people and wants to be like them. So for me, I think one of those topics is appearances. Like, because she, I don't know, maybe it's not, maybe it's self-image. I think that one might be one that I would say for Janelle is self-image. So what are some other topics that we're finding in here? And all of you guys who said you're you can relate to Amy, what's kind of a topic beyond divorce? What's another topic in there that you, what are things that you struggle with your parents being divorced?
Me going to 2 different houses every week besides weekends.
So that is a struggle. Can others relate to that as well? Trauma. Thank you, Mrs. Toshek. Trauma definitely is a topic. Thank you. Can you maybe expand on that? Where are you looking at? Where do you see trauma?
I see, okay, so the class doesn't know, but I've done a lot of like study on trauma and a lot of ways that trauma impacts people and what trauma is and how it works and all that other kind of fun stuff. And I could have real big conversations with you guys if you ever want to do that. But I see trauma a lot throughout the whole book. So having a mother die is traumatic. Having to be picked up and go from one community that's one way to a totally opposite community is very traumatic. So that'd be like Leslie. Feeling like you're not supported by your parents and so much so that you don't ever feel loved is kind of traumatic, especially to teenage growing minds. Having your father just up and leave is traumatic. Having your father murdered and then watching the body go is super traumatic. So I just see a ton of lots of different trauma that goes through, and myself being a survivor of a shit ton of trauma. And I didn't say I said that. It is my new it is a new measurement term of it, that I just see it, and not only just in the Chankara, but just in a ton of the other portions of it, and then why they feel the way they feel.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all that with us. That was awesome. So Tatiana says the topics of teen pregnancy, body image, and parents absent. Oh my gosh, isn't that the truth? So we see the teens pregnant in Gloria, obviously, and then parent absent. Tati, are you talking about because of the divorce?
No, parents absent. I did because of Deandra, and she said rejected by her dad.
Wow. You just brought up another one too. Rejection.
And can I add on to something Miss Tauschek said?
Oh, please.
So something also in this book is the trauma and like what they do to cope is kind of also in there. Like for Raul, it's like he paints to help cope with his trauma, and like Gloria, like she was partying, and like who's the one? Oh, the one who wants a kid. Like the kid is to help replace the loneliness.
Oh,
Lupe.
yeah. Oh my gosh, that is super insightful. I love that you brought up coping. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I really want to explore that. And I love that you just hit on loneliness, because isn't that a topic in this book? Whew. And I bet we can all relate to loneliness at some point in our lives. No matter if we're surrounded by a lot of people, you can still be lonely. Thank you, Tati. That was absolutely perfect. So coping reminds me of the word survival. Okay. So when we think about survival, I'm going to bring this to you guys, high school kids. What do you guys, what are you trying to survive? You can I really want to hear from you. So put it in the chat. What are you trying to survive? Or what are your friends trying to survive? Put it in the chat, please. Trying to survive COVID. Yep. Every day. Interesting, Tati. Yep. Your reactions to COVID. Isn't that the truth? There's actually a term for it now. They call it COVID. Oh, crap. It's not coming to me. Life. Yeah. So true. Who else? What else? What are you guys trying to survive? You kind of hit on some big ones, like your reaction to COVID. Tati says every day. Then we have COVID in there again. Life. Caroline says life. Maybe you're just trying to survive this class. School. See? See, I knew I'd get Elena to say something. School. And I know what? You know what, guys? That's me too. I'm trying to survive this whole COVID thing because I care so deeply about kids and learning. I miss kids, so I'm trying to survive this whole way of doing school because I'm not in class with any of you. Do you know, sorry, little side note, I actually have a puppet and his name is Humper. We can talk about that some other time. It's a dog. And I have him sitting in a chair in my classroom because I usually go to school every day at some point, because then I at least have something to look at when I'm sitting at my table when that I use for teaching. So I too am trying to survive all of this. Toddy, you said every day, that's pretty big and broad. What would be like, if you don't mind, can you be more specific about that?
Well, I know not only with me, but like many people, we all have our own struggles that we face every day. So we just take it by the day.
So we have struggles we face every single day. No kidding. This leads to my next question. In the beginning of this book, we talked about masks and about how everybody wears a mask. What kind of a mask do people wear, or what kind of mask are certain characters wearing? What are they covering up?
What they really are and like what they actually are.
Thank you, Sam. Isn't that the truth? You know what? That kind of reminds me of a topic like appearances. What we show to other people versus what's really going on inside. And I bet that's kind of maybe even what Tatiana was talking about too. I don't know, because I am not her. So our appearances versus reality. I'm writing all these down. Their personalities. Oh yeah, so true, Lizzie, so true. So thank you all for your responses, because I feel like I'm more connected to you guys, because now I'm feeling like I can connect to you and not only to the characters in the book. I so appreciate your input into this. What time is it? Because I don't want to go over. Okay, so now let's continue on. I want you to think about how we, oops, that's not what I want. I'm gonna go back to here. So we came up with a bunch of topics, and let me repeat those. Loneliness, coping, trauma, teen pregnancy, body image, parents absent, rejection, struggles, and appearances versus reality. So when we were discussing these, and you guys gave a great list of topics within this book, how did you come up with those topics? What strategies did you use to come up with those topics? Either unmute or put that in the chat. So right now we're thinking specifically about the conversation we just had today. How did we come up with these topics? What did we do to come up with the topics?
Well, first we kind of like summarized all of their stories, and then from their stories we took out like, I don't know.
You're on the right track. We summarized their stories, right? That's what's on the kind of on that screen. And then what did we do, Toddy?
And then we pick out like the pieces that like stand out.
Okay. I'm writing all these down. I'm wondering, did the questions...
Anahi said find evidence.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that in the chat. Perfect. We found evidence that supported what we were, the topics, right? We were able to really point to that evidence and then say, this is what I'm finding. So excellent. How about the fact that we kind of were asking questions? Did asking questions help come up with a topic?
Yeah.
And then, thanks, Anahi, too. So then one of the questions I was asking you was about relating to the characters. So was that a strategy that we used? We are able to relate to specific characters? And then did you also notice there's relationships between each of it, not each of, but a lot of the characters too. Like Deandra's tall, not interested in sports, rejected by her dad. Ooh, there's another topic. Rejection. Whoa, I just saw that. Seriously. And then, so not interested, but then we have Devin, who's a basketball player, but he secretly likes to read. So we have these connections between characters as well. So as we think about how we came up with topics, those are called strategies. So we looked at the connections between characters and we examined characters' feelings. We looked at how we relate to characters. And then we can also add in that we, whoopsie. And I'll add this in later because I can't. Because I want to get all of your answers in there. Because we also said, God said we summarized the stories, picked out pieces. And Anahi said we're finding evidence. These are strategies that you guys use to find the topics within a text. That's awesome.
Did anybody use the strategy of finding the conflict in the little story?
Ooh.
Like, what's the conflict that was going on in the little story? So if we look at Lupe's conflict is that she wants to be loved. So that's also the issue that they're kind of talking about.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Mrs. Tauschek. Because that's what we were kind of talking about, like survival and what are the masks people wear. So that was perfect. That's finding that conflict. Perfect. Thank you. So we're going to move on now and we're going to take a look at the practice assignment for this, for finding the topic. And I know you're all going to be super excited when I show you this and I walk through this. Okie dokie. I'll just go to one I already had open. So back to the learning targets, I can identify key topics within a text. Hey guys, we did that, right? We were able to identify those key topics. And now I can support my thinking with evidence and reasoning. And this is where I'm going to show that I can do this. You're going to be choosing a topic in the book and support it with evidence. I want you to attempt to use proper MLA citation, and I have the strategies listed below. So the topic I picked out is loneliness, and my claim is Grimes. That's the author. Notice how I didn't call her Nikki? That's because we're not friends. We always use the author's last name. Grimes shows the topic of loneliness through the character of Leslie Lucas. Now my evidence. For example, my transition, I knew I wouldn't have anybody to talk to when it hurts, and it hurts all the time. Evidence number 2, in addition, transition, the scariest thing I can think of now is being all alone in the world. Now I have to think about those 3 gates. So does my evidence fit those 3 gates? Is it enough? Looking at the claim, topic of loneliness. I think it is. Because it really hits the topic of loneliness. Is it the best? Well, they really do support that topic. And is it relevant? Oh, it's definitely relevant. But here's my question. Is it too much? Did I add in anything extra that doesn't really fit that claim? And I don't think I did. think it really fits the claim. Now is where I'm going to get to my reasoning, where I put it all together. As I'm reading, I'd like you to keep in mind this sentence starter so you can see how I use this sentence starter to develop my claim, evidence, and reasoning paragraph. By the way, before I move on, how many of you are really sick and tired of hearing claim, evidence, and reasoning and having to do anything? Sam's hand goes right up. Are you guys sick of this? Yeah. Yep, Toddy raised her hand. Is that because you have a question or because you're sick of it?
Sick of it.
Sorry, guys, it's one of those skills that we're going to hammer on throughout the entire year. But right now we're super focused on it. We'll back off on it in a little while. I get it, guys. I'm kind of sick of it too, the focus. But anyway, follow through with my sentence starter and as I read. Grimes shows the topic of loneliness through the character of Leslie Lucas. Notice how I just put in my claim. For example, now I have my evidence. I knew I wouldn't have anybody to talk to when it hurts, and it hurts all the time. Please note that my evidence is a direct quote from the text. I put it in quotation marks. You guys must have been taught somewhere along the way that you should italicize quotes, but that's not what you do. I noticed that on a lot of the practices. Anyway, this shows that Leslie feels like she's all alone and the continued loneliness hurts her deeply. So notice how I'm explaining the quote. In addition, transition, the scariest thing I can think of now is being all alone in the world. This means that she's overcome with the fear of being alone. All this proves that Grimes shows the topic of loneliness through Leslie Lucas because she has no one to talk to when the pain hits hardest and there is no relief because she's always afraid of being alone. So then I put all that together, and the last part is my reasoning. So I use the sentence starter to put everything together. Just want to show you that the strategies are below, especially the 3 gates. And then I'm adding transitions. Those are right in the sentence starter already. But here are how you can be successful with using the in-text citation. So I have all of those strategies on this document. Now let me pop over and show you your assignment because I know you've all been waiting for this. And I appreciate your excitement. So I go to classwork, and right down here at the bottom is the assignment. So when I click on this, I can see already one person turned it in. So this is what your assignment looks like. Here are your directions. You're going to choose a topic from today's class discussion. I am also going to put some screenshots of another screen onto Classroom so that you have more reference. And I want you to attempt to use proper MLA citation. But the focus really is on this whole claim, evidence, reasoning paragraph. So this is where you put your topic. I have the sentence starter. Here's your claim. This is where you're going to add 2 pieces of evidence. And then this is the sentence starter that you can go through to create your paragraph. Now, some of you may not like using the sentence starter, so feel free to make your own paragraph. I just happen to know that it's a really great way to organize your thinking. And the strategies are below. So now I want to pop back over here. Not there. Here. And notice my model is right inside this presentation, which is located on Classroom as well. So now, what questions do you have for me? If you don't have questions, put it in the chat. If you don't, just tell me. I want to know that you're alive and well out there. Just tell me that you understand. If you have questions, ask. If it's about anything we went through, if it's about something I can do to better support you, please put it in the chat. But I expect everybody to answer something, either with a question or that you understand. Thanks, Toddy. Thanks, Caroline. Oh, I am, Anahi, right after we get done with this, putting in the chat. Thanks, Anthony. Thank you, Osmar. Thanks, Giovanni. Thanks, Zane.
Yes, Elena, that's pretty much it. 2 CERs.
Elena, are you referring to the one that you had on Tuesday? Okay, thanks. And just before we move on, I want to tell you guys and remind you that that claim evidence reasoning paragraph is an assessment, so it's worth 80% of your grade. You need to, if you want to do well on that, go back and look at your practices, practice 1 and 2. I've given you feedback. I've sent it all back to you. Listen to my feedback. That will help you do very well on your claim evidence reasoning paragraph. Okay, the assessment. Anything that was turned in as of last night is I've taken a look at and given feedback on. So please, please, please look at that first. Okay. You know what question I'm surprised nobody asked, Mrs. Tauschek? When is this due? Nobody asked that question. So let's move on. So here we go. Here our learning targets are. I just went over those. Next steps, complete this practice. Read through page 132. These are the characters. Now, this will lead us into the answer to the question. What is the one thing that you can't buy but everyone wants? The gift of time. Next week is another weird schedule week. We have no class on Tuesday. I don't think you guys even have school on Tuesday. And I know Monday's an asynchronous day. So instead of posting another lesson, we're going to use Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to get caught up in lesson practices, the assessment if you need to, and reading. Remember, you need to be through page 132 no later than Thursday. Okay? So that's the answer to the riddle, which also led us into the next week's schedule. So your practice isn't really due. I think I set it for Wednesday. I'll have to check. So you've got time to work on this. I know that some of you are kind of in a bad spot with other classes and maybe this one as well. Please use your time wisely. Like, I know that's like a teacher thing to say, but seriously. Okay? Do I have any other slides? I don't think so. Nope. What questions do you have for me now? And if you have no questions, none at all, you can put that in the chat. Either say I'm good in the chat or give me a question by unmuting or putting that in the chat, and then you are free to go.